getting some air out. I'm breathing too much. My brain is getting too much oxygen. Gregory's Poontang is a collection of mostly unrelated scenes.
It has 100 subplots, and it stars Dalim Badoop as Gregory's Poontang. Dan, what did you think of Gregory's Poontang?
So Ethan, what did you think of Georgetta's Pooram?
So Dan, what did you think of Georgettan's Pooram?
So Ethan, what did you think of Georgettan's Pooram?
So Dan, what did you think of Gorgadarg's Garoom?
I don't know.
Why did we watch this movie?
Well, you see, we saw that there was a movie showing, and we hadn't seen it yet, of course, because we saw literally every fucking other movie that was out in the cinema.
So Dan, what did you think of Gregory's Pooram?
I liked that the subtitles were pure white. They had no outline or anything.
I like that people wore really white shirts all the time, so we couldn't read the subtitles.
There were white shirts, there were shots of the sky. A lot of the buildings were just pure white.
Yeah, there were some tables that were pure white.
Oh yeah, those were good.
I like that every character spoke so quickly that the subtitles were on screen for approximately 0.4 of a second.
I like that the audio was mixed very well. Like, you can really feel their throats where they kept the microphones that they recorded with. Because that's really how they do it in Bollywood. They really just hide it down your throat, all the way down. Like, you have to swallow it whole and just drink some water just to really get it down there.
Yeah, I really appreciate that it was so loud that it burst my eardrums.
Oh yeah. And like, there was that scene with the eagle flying overhead.
There was a crow.
Oh yeah, it was a crow.
The crow went like.
It was just so fucking loud. Everything. Couldn't hear myself think.
It was great. I loved it.
I also like that bit where someone forgot to hold shift on the subtitles.
Oh, yeah.
So an exclamation point was just a 1 at the end of a sentence.
So Dan, what did you think the plot of Gregory's Pooram, or what did you think the main plot of the 100 subplots was?
So George is a Catholic?
Maybe Christian?
And his
dad's a priest or a pastor?
Him and his friends are jobless, like lazy guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're layabout kind of types. It's like a term for that, like bums.
Bums.
Yeah, and they're just kind of like living their lives. They have the time of their lives. Like one of them has like kids and shit, and he's just like, hey, I'm not gonna get a job.
That was one of the scenes where I was like, I kind of came and gone, and I remembered it being
Is
there.
Is this
the
main character? But it wasn't.
I was reading the subtitles, so I didn't know who was talking.
Yeah.
Because like the subtitles were like down at the bottom, so every time I had to look up, oh no, they're talking, I have to read the subtitles. So I didn't know who was in that scene. The subtitles at the bottom, white, couldn't read them.
Yes.
And I felt like I didn't know what was happening because the screen was so big. And we were looking at the small section at the very bottom trying to read the subtitles.
I didn't read the subtitles.
You didn't read the subtitles, so you had no idea what was happening.
There was, like, I just assume they didn't have jobs. I don't know, like, I feel like everyone in their lives was, like, annoyed
All they did
at
was
them.
drink and smoke.
Yeah,
My favorite thing about this movie, of course.
Oh, yeah.
We should start at the very beginning, right? We went to the cinema on Saturday, which was the day before we saw Gregory's Pooram. And we noticed a funny looking door for one of the screens.
Yeah.
It was very different to the other doors.
It looked very ethnic. I don't know the right way to describe the door.
The other doors were very white, but this one was kind of like brown looking, and it had a window and a door handle on it.
Quite like ornate looking handle.
Yeah, it looked very like what's the word?
Unique.
Oriental.
Yeah, I'd say Oriental. But actually,
so
I'd pull out my eyes and then go Oriental. That's how I'd say Oriental.
But yeah, that was the screen that we were seeing Gregory's Poontang. So we went in there and we sat down and we were really excited to see the movie.
But then a bunch of people started coming in. All of, they were clearly the audience for this film.
Yeah,
They
Indians.
saw us and assumed that they were in the wrong screen.
Yeah, which is racist.
Like, there were maybe like a group of like 6 people all walked out at once.
Yeah.
When they saw us.
And then they kind of looked at their tickets and they were like, are we in the right screen?
And like 10 people came in all at once. And
then again, they did the same thing. They walked out, they looked at their tickets, and then they went and sat down.
Yeah,
so they saw us and thought, well, this can't be the movie that we're going to see because they're white. And white people can't enjoy Gregory's Pooram.
It was a weird experience.
It was really weird.
We were the
but
minority.
Then the film started, and they had the regular adverts, but then they said that the trailers you're about to see are suitable for the movie that you're about to watch.
Yeah.
And we kind of looked at each other like, what are we going to watch? We didn't even know the age rating for this movie.
We didn't.
And we kind of looked behind us, and all the Indian families had a bunch of like little kids with them. And we're like, well, it must be like I don't know, a family movie.
We didn't know the genre. We didn't know the runtime. We didn't know anything about it.
We had no. I saw a trailer on YouTube that didn't have subtitles, so I really had absolutely no idea. The only thing about the trailer that intrigued me was that there was a scene with a bunch of graves.
Yeah.
That's not in the movie.
Yeah, we never saw a scene with a bunch of graves. Like, and the trailer is like, it feels like the In-Betweeners.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it looks like an action movie is going on in there.
But that's the movie. It does just feel like the Indian Betweeners.
Yeah.
But also with action scenes. And we'll get to the action scenes. But the trailers that they showed at the beginning of Gregory's Pooram. Jagoons or Jagaz Jasoons.
Not a word of dialogue in the trailer.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, it just
It
looks
looked like it was one of the best trailers I've seen all year, and it's for a Bollywood movie. It was like an action, comedy, romance, like thriller, like.
That's just a Bollywood movie.
Yeah. It's like every movie rolled into one.
Yeah, and honest, I don't know if they gave everything or nothing away with that trailer.
Yeah, same. I had no idea what it was, but I don't know. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah.
But eventually they started the movie, and they had the credits at the beginning.
Yeah.
And immediately we were kind of warned by the fact that this film has 5 directors.
Yeah. There's Kaffy, there's Shaffy, there's Jaffy, there's Maffy, there's Waffy, there's Taffy and Daffy and Doe.
But then the film starts, and there's a field, which I think there was a school there maybe.
Yeah.
And a guy owned the field, but
there was like some guy he was like the first Indian to participate in whatever the like localized Asian
Olympics.
The Olympics of Asia.
Yeah.
Like exclusively for Asian
Olympics.
And he was some kind of like, guy who like the first Indian to compete in it, or first to get a medal from India. And there's this park in his honor that he owned or something. That it was supposed to be a park for like, I guess for kids or whatever.
I don't know. I can't remember. That scene happened so quick. I couldn't read the subtitles.
I think that's when I stopped reading the subtitles, because that's when I was like, I know too much. I wanted to know literally nothing. And so then there were some school kids.
Yeah.
And then there were adults.
No, they did a high five, and then it came up saying a bunch of Indian words we couldn't read. And
it said in the corner, be careful when high-fiving, you might...
said no high-fiving with a big red line through it.
Every time there was something like smoking, drinking, there was always a like notice or riding a bike without a helmet.
Yeah,
there was a safety notice or like a public service announcement. Don't do this.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was like sometimes they would just cut to a shot really quickly, like in a montage, and it would just pop up, and we're looking like, where the fuck is the alcohol?
Yeah.
Like, I can't see anyone smoking.
Yeah, and then it'd be gone again.
Yeah, and then it would cut back to that same shot, and it would be there again. And it was really confusing. My favorite was, of course, like whenever anybody was riding a bike without a helmet, they would put a little bike helmet in the corner and say, make sure you ride a bike with a helmet. Because my dad's been to India, and he says nobody rides with a helmet in India.
Well, they're not watching enough movies.
Yeah, they need to watch movies, and they need to be warned of the dangers of smoking.
Yeah, smoking and riding without a helmet.
What happened in this?
There's the field. There's this girl, the main character.
Oh yeah,
George.
Baloo. What was her name?
I don't know.
Baleep. I think Baleep or Baloo. We'll say Baloo. This lady called Baloo shows up in a car.
She was a grizzly bear.
Yeah, yeah. She was a bear, and she says something about a driving course. She wants to do a driving course in the field.
I just remember there was like a car on the field at one point.
Yeah.
And they were using like driving cones, so I guess it was a driving school.
You weren't reading the subtitles, though.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So I know more than you then.
Oh, okay.
This woman shows up and she starts talking to the Indian betweeners about. Like, she wants to make a driving course in this field, and she's asking them to do it. And they're like, oh, we don't care. We want to fuck pretty ladies.
But why are they being asked? Do people think they own the field?
I guess, well, they kept hanging out there and drinking and smoking on the balcony,
yeah.
So I guess so. So she said she wanted to do a driving course, and they're like, we don't care. And she's like, oh, no, it's going to be an all-woman driving course with loads of hot ladies. And they're like, oh, yeah, I want to...
Count us in!
I want to come in hot ladies. So... They said yeah, and then they had a song about something.
Is that when they had the montage of them having like lads' night and stuff?
Yeah, cut to music video. That was probably the best scene in the film.
Yeah,
it was hilarious. The music was great. I was really getting into it.
Yeah, just having like fun time.
And then it cuts to them on the balcony, and they're waking up with a hangover, and they're smoking with a little sign in the corner that says not to smoke.
Yeah,
and then
it doesn't say
shows
anything
up.
about sleeping outside or sleeping on the streets or anything like that. No, it's just don't smoke and drink.
Don't smoke and drink.
Yeah.
But then the lady shows up in her car, and they're like, "Oh, the hot girls are here." And then a bunch of fat ladies come out, and they're like, "Oh, who are these hags?
Yeah.
They're mothers. We wanted hot girls." And then the movie just completely changes to Gregory George.
Yeah.
He wants to fuck a girl.
Yeah,
So
like,
he stalks her.
Yeah, just constantly stares at her, and then there's a song that plays every time, and he makes
It's
this
like
face.
this romantic song, but she looks terrified.
Yeah, she's just like so uncomfortable with him looking at her.
Mhm. Which I would be too.
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to do something. Like, I think there's one point where he shows up in her home while she's, like, cooking and listening to music, and he just kind of stares at her and then says, "You will bear my children," and leaves.
There's so many scenes of these guys just wandering into people's houses.
There's so many scenes where there's, like, 5 people talking at once.
Yeah.
And, like, the cinema was, like, the loudest cinema we've ever been to. So we were sitting there with, like, our hands on our ears at some point. It's like, just stop talking!
But the thing is, when we had our ears covered, we could still hear it perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, it was a better way to listen to have it padded through that.
Wait. Oh, yeah, no, he kept wanting to fuck the girl, and he was trying to find a way to fuck the girl. But then he found out that she wanted to be a nun. And
Yeah.
of course, if you know anything about Catholics, nuns can't fuck people.
Yeah.
So he didn't want her to be a nun.
So he had to destroy God.
Yeah.
He had to end the
waged
concept.
war with God. He flew up to heaven and he killed God just so he could fuck this girl.
And there were really obnoxious, loud, unbalanced slap sounds.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So he goes to the church at some point to be a priest because she's going to be a nun. And then he starts making like kissy faces at her and the music plays again. And at this point, I guess she's charmed by this. Even though he's been stalking her, like literally he went up to her in the street at one point and started like going like and licking like his fingers and stuff, trying to like simulate licking her vagina.
Yeah, like, wasn't he like licking out like a fruit or something?
Yeah, he was. He started like making out with some kind of pear or something.
Yeah.
But then eventually he goes to a church and he's pretending to be a priest because she's learning to be a nun. And then she kind of like saves his ass because she's like, "Oh, I guess he's here because he fancies me, and I guess this is cute now, even though he's been stalking me for weeks." And then he goes outside and he finds out that his friends are fighting some stoners in the corner. And this was probably my favorite thing in the film, is the only line they speak in English is, "Why would you drive and drink when you can smoke and fly?" They just say it in English for some reason. And the subtitles are in English and it's great.
Yeah.
And then they just fight for no reason.
Yeah.
And then his friend, like Georgettan or Georgettan or whatever the fuck, he's like in a priest outfit at this point.
Yeah, and he's just like, just slaps everyone. And like
He
that.
just runs up to him and he like kicks the people to like save his friends.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "We need to get out of here because I'm wearing a priest uniform and the priests might see me." So they get in their car. And then they drive away, and then there's this bike chase, which is better than any of the action scenes in Fast and Furious 8.
Yeah, it's just like a good chase sequence, and like
it's well filmed, it's well choreographed.
The fighting is good. It's a lot of like quick slow mo back to like the impact and all that.
The only thing is that they had one punching sound effect,
Yeah.
and they just played it for everything. People get kicked, whoosh! People get slapped, whoosh! People get punched, whoosh!
Someone
People get hit with an iron like pole,
Yeah.
whoosh! And then his dad finds him in the priest's uniform, and he kicks him out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, they're just kind of chilling in the field. And then a villain shows up and says, "My dad owned this field, so you have to leave my field." And then the film stops.
I give George Jetson's Pram. I don't know what was happening, but I liked it.
Yeah, yeah. It had some really good music videos. They were really well like choreographed and filmed, and the music was great.
Yeah, I like the dance numbers. They're all fun.
The action scenes were good. Some of the comedy scenes were quite funny. Like the faces that Gregory made were quite funny when he was stalking the girl.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say that was one savage cliffhanger to end your movie on.
Yeah,
like there was like no plot for half of it, and then a guy shows up and he says, "I'm gonna own this field," and then the film stops.
Yeah.
And we weren't sure if this was like an interval or something. Like, is that what they call it? Like back in the day when movies had intervals?
Well, I mean, just like we just like we just were like, okay, I guess it's over. So we just let like a bunch of other people left. So we're like, I guess we'll just go. So this must be over.
But we started to think maybe it was an interval, so we went to the shop across the street because we were gonna get earplugs because it was like so loud. But that was shut. So we went back to the cinema, and the cinema was closed. So I guess that was the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's just, we got back, and it's just, I guess it's over. So, I don't know what else is supposed to happen. That's
the credits were at the beginning of the film, so, yeah, I guess that was it.
Maybe they were playing it in reverse. We couldn't tell.
We wouldn't be able to tell.
Maybe that's why the audio was all fucked up. Maybe it was a perfect movie.
So, Dan, would you recommend Georgettan's Primrose?
I would say it's good enough. I'd say if you like Bollywood films, maybe. I'd say if you like movies, maybe. I'd say if you like sitting in a dark room and being confused, this is for you. I mean, of course, if you don't speak Indian or whatever the fuck kind of moon speak. So, Ethan, what did you think of Georgettan's Pooram?
I loved it because I had no idea what was happening. I haven't really seen a Bollywood movie before.
Yeah, me either.
I really enjoyed it. I think I might start watching Bollywood movies because I think they're better than Hollywood movies.
Yeah, I've got to find out what are some like highly reviewed Bollywood movies.
That was something I was going to say. We kind of looked up this one beforehand, and it got like a 2.5 out of 5 from like an Indian Bollywood review.
Oh, I
website.
saw like IMDb and like Rotten Tomatoes. They all had it like quite low, like 40 or whatever.
I mean, it's not great. I wouldn't give it that though, but I don't know. They're not comparing it to the movies that we're used to. They're comparing it to the movies that they're used to, which is Bollywood. And Bollywood's fucking weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe compared to some really good Bollywood movies, this is terrible. So yeah, if it's playing at a cinema near you, go and see it. If it's not, watch it online because it's great.
You heard it from us here, kids. That's the seal of okay.
Go see Gregory's Pooram in a cinema nowhere near you. Go to India, fly all the way to India just to see Gregory's Pooram.
And hope that you don't lose all your rupees.
Maybe learn to speak Indian if you can. Actually, no, you'd probably enjoy the movie more if you didn't even attempt to read the subtitles.
Yeah.
Because I ended up getting really pissed off that sometimes like people with a white shirt would just walk into frame. I'm like, and I don't know what's happening.
And then it's just well, I mean, stand there for so long.
Yeah.
It's just
the entire scene, it would be like, well, I don't know what that was because I couldn't read the subtitles.